Okay, so last week we spoke about not attending our Tuesday meeting, and I said we will use that class to catch up. We'll use that gap to go through the readings to make sure that we are all on the same page, since some of us just registered. Again, today we will be revising theme 1 and theme 2. So it's important for you to familiarize yourself with these concepts of anthropology, to also understand these approaches that we spoke about, and also be able to critically engage within the medical anthropology scope through you understanding the use of social and scientific aspects to resolve issues of illness and disease. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my revision today, our revision. So theme 1 and theme 2. I said to you, it's important for you to understand anthropology, to understand medical anthropology. This is because medical anthropology is a subfield for anthropology as a broader field, as a holistic field, which has branches to it. Okay, I said to you, on your first year, you learned about the definitions of anthropology. Again, here they also become relevant, they become important. It becomes you understanding the role behind anthropology, their interest in understanding behavior, their interest in understanding the environment where people live, understanding the interaction between the people. Okay, so today our theme 1 again is also recapping on us defining the stand of anthropology, the origin of medical anthropology, and then understanding why medical anthropology is relevant, why it remains relevant today, why its relevance persists. So, origins of medical anthropology can be dated back in the 1960s. Again, I said to you, the origins of medical anthropology dates back to the early 1960s. Their role was to improve public health, to understand access to health, to also resolve issues of health that pertain to illness and disease, to understand the social dynamics that drive illness, to also understand the factors that shape diseases and illness, and also to understand the factors that make up the understanding of the same illness. Okay, we're defining medical anthropology as a transdisciplinary field, as an interdisciplinary field. I said to you, this is because it does not look at disease and illness from a humanistic side, but it also projects the same illness from the scientific side, from the naturalistic side, which then gives them more understanding of both the scientific factors and the cultural factors that contribute to illness and disease. Okay, I said to you, the origins of medical anthropology came with 3 orientations: the view of the populations as biological, understanding the genes, the factors that genes contribute to illness, or the factors that attract illness to gene makeup, the development of human evolution, which has developed their genes as well. And it's also viewed society or population as cultural units. There are cultures that exist in society, the same cultures that affects behavior, that affects interaction, that shape understanding of communal behavior, which contributes to illness. All those cultural factors can go with food, can go with the lifestyle that you choose. And then the third factor for this orientation for medical anthropology was that they want to view the society or the population as an ecological system, which there is an interaction of health and human evolution. Yes, changes in the natural world have affected us. As I said last week, changes in human evolution have affected us. We evolved very quick, but the adaptation is very slow. So that exposes us to many illness. It exposes us to many deadly diseases and viruses. Okay, it is through these major orientations that medical anthropology offers a holistic understanding of health problems. The holistic understanding of health problem is the biological aspect and the use of cultural aspects to understand these illnesses. Using cultural, looking at behavior, the interactions, the kind of food people eat. When you look at the biological, we look at evolution, the genes, the adaptation of humans, which also has an impact. Together, that contributes to the holistic understanding of illness and disease, because we do not only understand the social side, but we also understand the biological side. That's what makes medical anthropology unique. Okay, we looked at the contributions of medical anthropology. I said to you, during the 1960s, medical anthropology began, and its major objective was improving public health, which most of public health is more disadvantaged or poor in developing regions. For them, that was their target, to improve and also understand the patterns of illness and disease, especially in poor nations. Okay. The contributions also move along its linkages of biological and cultural aspects, the biocultural element, understanding the biological and cultural aspects, the scientific and humanistic aspects of illness, because what makes us sick is not only the biological side, but it's also the cultural side. Later on, when we go through the epidemiological approaches or epidemiological transitions, you will see how mental health and the physical health can together contribute, and how social factors can shape mental health, which then can affect your physical health, because we cannot separate mental health from physical health, because some people, if they are stressed, they cannot directly feel the pressure, but you will feel them feeling the headache, even if they are not constantly thinking about their problems. You'll find that they are feeling a headache, they are feeling tired, they are feeling nauseous or something, or angry, or it becomes the buildup of cultural biological elements, the role that the two play. So the role, the contributions of medical anthropology was not only on public health, but also fusing biological and cultural aspects, the humanistic and scientific elements, to understand illness, to understand health, to also understand how diseases are understood and how they manifest amongst the population. Okay, I also spoke about the communicable diseases and non-communicable disease. An example of a communicable disease is cholera, which has been a problem over the years. Another example, which is a major example, is TB. TB is actually still affecting people. It's still making people sick. And malaria, especially in North Africa, and some of the southern nations, southern countries particularly, malaria is still a problem. And if we speak about non-communicable disease, an example can be cardiovascular disease, because it can only happen with you eating or engaging in unhealthy lifestyle. And cancer cannot be a communicable disease because it can only be a genetic issue, or it can also be caused by human interaction, because some earlier nurses and doctors use different material, and some of those materials, such as the X-ray, exposed them to high levels of radiation, which made them sick at a later stage, causing cancer. Okay, done with the communicable and non-communicable disease. Okay, last week we also touched on medical anthropology perspectives that medical anthropologists use, that medical anthropologists rely on ethnographic descriptions of healing and practices. I said to you, when we speak of ethnography, we speak of fieldwork in anthropology, where the researcher, the anthropologist, goes to the field, directly interacts with the group, asking questions whilst observing how they live. Not only understanding how they live, but also deducting and also analyzing their lifestyle, which becomes an ethnographic description. It becomes the major or the main method of anthropology because it has been used in many spaces. Anthropologists have been using ethnography to understand the diversity of African cultures, that where they've dispersed around Africa, around Africa, in different communities, asking questions about the cultural elements, where they were able to understand the differences in African culture. Remember, African culture used to be understood as homogeneous, which means the Western ethnographers understood Africa as one, as having same cultures and as having unified characteristics of culture, which was not the truth, So ethnography came as a solution to offer an insider view perspective, not only understanding people from a distance, but also asking important questions, which then comes to medical anthropology, understanding HIV, how HIV is passed. They used many methods such as ethnography, where they were able to understand the cultural causes of HIV and the social causes and the economic causes of HIV and AIDS, where the cultural causes have been understood to be along African culture, where polygamy was mentioned as a problem, where female genital mutilation was also mentioned as a problem. With polygamy, they said it reduced negotiations for women's safer sex conditions, where men are dominant, telling women what to do at what time. So looking at ethnography as a method, they understood that there are cultural causes of illness and there are also social causes of illness. So when it comes to ethnography, they were able to understand healing, how Sangoma can heal, how Izangoma can heal people, how Izinyanga and other traditional healers are able to engage in with the communities and healing them. Okay, comparison of ethno-medical system. They were comparing ethno-medical system. Ethnic groups have different medical systems. So through ethnography, they were able to enter those communities, different communities, comparing these communities, their methods, their indigenous methods of understanding illness. Most nations used to heal themselves. For example, there were many platforms you can use, Sangoma, you can use Inyanga. There were many different healers for each culture, whether Indian or whether white or despite any ethnic or race. Okay, they use explanatory models of health and sickness. Yes, explanatory models of health and sickness. Explanatory model, you will see at a later stage, it's used to understand ethnic medicine or ethnic group medicine and their understanding of disease. So it's used to understand their understanding of disease and their understanding of healing as well. So through the use of ethnography, anthropologists have compared, they have been able to explain through the explanatory model how communities heal themselves and how they understand the same illness. Okay, the fourth bullet, health-seeking behavior. Through the same use of ethnography, they've been able to observe health-seeking behaviors. According to Stewart and Simon, which is a reading that I read on my third year, they spoke about men, particularly young men, being poor health seekers, whilst younger women engage in sex with older men. They get sick and they will be able to pass this illness to younger men. But the issue now arises because younger men and men in general are poor health seekers. They do not go to clinics. They do not properly look after themselves. Through this model, then medical anthropologists have also been able to understand that the difference between males and females when it comes to seeking health. Okay, the efficacy of ethnomedical systems. Yes, ethnomedical systems, medical system used by ethnic groups. So they've been able to assess and cross-examine and be able to comment on the ethnomedical systems, the medical systems used by ethnic groups. Okay, they've used five approaches to understand all the above, to understand ethnographic description, to understand the comparison of ethnomedicine, to understand explanatory models of health and sickness, to also understand health-seeking behaviors, and the efficacy of ethnomedical systems. They've used five approaches: biological, ecology, ethnomedical, critical approaches. Biological, it excludes all the psychological and humanistic elements. It only focuses on the gene elements, on the biological elements. Ecology as an approach to medical anthropologists, it looks at the people and the settlements where they have settled, because the environment where you are has an impact on your health. Because in as much as you have an impact on the environment you are in, your impact on that environment can also determine the state of health, because you might destroy the environment, you might cause water contamination, you might even engage in modern agriculture, which is detrimental for the soil. Okay, ethnomedical approach, which is a third approach, our third approach, which is also along understanding indigenous knowledge systems. When I say indigenous knowledge systems, I mean knowledge that is shared amongst the communities, knowledge that is passed on, that is understood by members of that ethnic group, which in this case, it's knowledge that relates to medicine, that relates to healing, that relates to the communities understanding their health and being able to also understand forces that come and shape that particular health. Okay, now this is the third one. I don't know what is happening here. Okay, the critical approach. It's supposed to be here. I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay, this critical approach requires scholars, you, to critically examine your own understanding of how the world works when it comes to illness, when it comes to diseases, when it comes to unwellness, when it comes to health system. So it becomes an intellectually driven approach, which can also be based on knowledge and expertise of particular individuals. It analyzes access to health facilities. Yes, it analyzes access to health facilities, because the same access to health facilities can be shaped by race, can be shaped by gender, can be shaped by ethnicity, can also be shaped by religion. Remember, when we talk of race, we understand that we come from the history that is unequal in South Africa. Even in the early 90s, healthcare was still unequal. And today, we have made so much effort to try and bring equilibrium, but still stratification remains. The strata remains. The hierarchy in healthcare system remains a major problem, because it comes in a form of gender issue, comes in a form of ethnic problem, it comes in a form of religion. Okay, our approach, which is the fifth one, and applied anthropology. So here we apply methods, we apply different methods, we apply different theories to understand a particular social problem, which in some cases can relate to perhaps, let's say TB, yes, TB, direct application of anthropological theory to understand issues of TB using methods. For example, the theories can also be marginalization. For example, mostly marginalized groups tend to have a TB problem. Why? That's the next question. This is because they are of their limited access to health, to transportation, if health care system is available, transportation, the environment where they are in, the remote areas where people cannot easily go to the clinic at any time. They use different methods. They can use focus groups, asking a community the issues that hinder them from accessing the clinic, using focus groups, grouping people together, asking questions and creating a discussion. Through that, a critical approach, which was the above, can also emerge. As you are looking at these people, they are saying we have, in this group, we have more males than females, which means females care more about their healthcare system, their healthcare, than males. So it moves us to using the methods, which is the focus group, for research to understand this social problem, which is the inaccessibility, the limited access to a particular health. So I'm making an example there. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I understand that some of you are not in the group. Please email me your numbers. We'll fix that. Okay, before I continue, ethnomedical systems or ethnomedicine can be understood through the explanatory model, which can be shaped by the understanding of the relationship between ethnicity and disease, how communities understand what's making them sick, how they engage in what's making them sick, and their in-depth understanding as to what is making them ill. Okay, so when using an explanatory model, there are two systems, personalistic and naturalistic. You can explain this in a supernatural way, because I said to you, it's how communities or ethnic groups understand ethnic disease. Yeah, how they understand their disease, how they understand what's making them ill. So if you're asking them questions through the explanatory models, they might be able to explain it through two systems, personalistic, which supernatural. There are spirits that are making us sick. We are sick because of these spirits. They come at night and then they make us sick. An example. Okay, naturalistic can be the process of explaining sickness in terms of natural forces. It could be because of water. Our water source is contaminated. Possibly could be making us sick. It could be because of the trees. There are trees that are toxic, they could be making us sick. Or it could be because of human evolution, it could be making us sick. Okay. Okay, outcomes for our revision for theme 1 is that understand the historical origins of medical anthropology as a specialized field. Yes, 1960s, it came about 3 major orientations to understand or view population as cultural unit, to view population as a social unit or a biological unit, let me just call that, and to also understand populations through ecology, where there's an intersection between health and evolution, because our evolution has indeed made us sick. We will explain that. I don't know what's happening with my notes. I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay, let me just fix this. Let me close. Let me pause here. Okay, there are distinct focus, which is to understand the biological and the cultural aspects or elements. We have been able to define medical anthropology. We have also been able to share the approaches of medical anthropology. You must be able to go through the readings and read on your own in order to pass the MCQ. So for you to understand this, you need to make sure that you go through the readings. Okay. Our theme 2 that we spoke about last week, human health and illness in evolutionary perspective. Human health and illness in evolutionary perspective. In this section now, we will be understanding the human evolution, the contributions of human evolution to our illness, the changes that came with human evolution to our natural environment, the changes in our natural environments that transformed our cultural elements, our behaviors, our interactions, and also as a result has shaped what we eat and how we eat. Okay, the great epidemiological transitions. This epidemiological transition is a demonstration of challenges of human evolution. It demonstrates issues of human evolution, biological issues, cultural issues, the conjunction of the two. It shares the humanistic and the cultural aspect, the scientific, and also the natural elements. Okay, I shared the story of the planets last week. Yes, I shared the story of the planets. We were able to share the story of the planets. I said to you, it's important for us to share the story of the planets because the story of the planet shows human evolution. It shows the evolvement of humans. It shows how humans have evolved over time. I said to you, our evolution is quicker than our adaptations. So our environments are transforming very quick. Our cultures are changing rapidly, but our adaptation seems to be very slow. It's moving very slow. It's moving in a slow pace. As a result, we have health issues, we have health challenges, we experience disease. Okay. Human survival over time. Humans have survived many epidemiologies over the years. Their survival has been based on many factors. It has been based on cultural elements, has been based on environmental elements, because the environment, again, can determine what's making you sick. It can also shape what's making you sick, how it's making you sick. Okay, we evolved as creatures and changed as species from Homo sapiens to modern day humans. Our environment has changed. We adapt to new viruses. Yes, we adapt to new viruses. I said to you, a Spanish flu is an example which killed many people around the 1800s. Spanish flu today is just a flu. It's not killing us anymore. It shows the evolvement of humans. It shows how humans have evolved. It shows the adaptations of humans, because it killed people during that time, but modern times you just buy med lemon or something and then you kill the flu. Then life goes on. And the same COVID-19 that has been ravaging people across the world, in 10, 15 years, it will be like flu. You see the evolution and the adaptation of humans, in as much as it is good, but it exposes us to changes, and the adaptation is happening in a slow pace. Okay, major shift through time in relations to human and disease. It demonstrates major shift. Our survival demonstrates major shift. We've come a long way from agricultural or hunters and gatherers societies to agricultural societies. The shift has not been easy because it came with trades-off, it came with challenges, it came with many cultural problems, it came with biological problems. Okay, we have three epidemiological transitions. We have one, which was the agricultural revolution and the spread of disease. Two, we have the second one, which was the industrial revolution, which came with illness as well and disease. And the third one is our modern time epidemiological transition, the challenges we face, the issues we face, the cultures we engage in. Remember, culture shapes how we behave, how we act, and how we do things. In a way, our food is our culture. What we eat is part of our culture. And what is making us sick can also be part of our culture, because modern day meals are not good. For example, I spoke about genetically modified food. Remember, an example of that is KFC. KFC has adopted many modern technologies, food technologies, to make their chicken bigger. If you go back to 1992, just not far, just 1992 or 1990 or 2000, you will see the size of KFC, the size of chicken. I think during the 1980s, there was a question that was asked on an international level. Do you want to reduce the population, or do you want us to use genetically modified food to increase the food supply? And people said genetically modified food. In modern day times, technological advancement had made it easy for GM food to take place. Chicken used to take a year. Now chickens can take 3 weeks to grow. That's not normal. That's not natural. But human evolution, adaptation, changes in culture has then made us stand on the position of eating genetically modified food, which comes with the modern industrial times. Okay, let me start with the first epidemiological transition. It's again the agricultural revolution, which came with the spread of disease. It occurred 10,000 years ago. From hunters and gatherers societies, people started to become more specialized, which means they started to go in groups instead of small portions, but they went in groups, started to farm more in lands, and then they started to domesticate animals. In that way, they started to engage more in land use, which came with many illness and disease. And it exposed them again to two disease, protozoa and zoonotic, which protozoa comes with the indirect effects of the environment. This is illness that can make you sick from the soil, from the water that you drink, from contaminated meat. So modern day comes with that. remember we had issues of listeriosis. Early 2000s, we had swine flu, which came from chickens, which made people sick, which many people did die from H1N1. Yeah, it's no longer like the nomadic times where food is hunted for survival. It has become easier for people to access food, which then makes them more sick, which then makes them more sick. Okay, zoonotic is the second class of illness that came with the agricultural revolution. This comes from, for example, malaria. Yes, malaria. Malaria is an example because it affects people directly. It directly affects the health of a person, unlike the protozoa, which indirectly affects a person. This can be found from the soil, the protozoa, the water people drink, but this one goes directly. It can be a virus, because a virus is an intracellular parasite. It requires a host, which is a human or an animal, for it to live and survive, which is part of zoonotic. The second epidemiological transition happened through industrial revolution. I said to you, during the 1800s, the industrial revolution started to happen before the French Revolution in the 1900s. The industrial revolution came with many social, cultural, and economic problems. The cultural elements come with the changes in lifestyle, changes in how people lived and how they did things, having to go to work, having to be stressed again, because people were never stressed this much. But the industrial revolution came with the issue of work. You need to find a job, you need to earn, you need to have an income, you need to have a house. It was no longer like the nomadic times where people just lived, but the social and the development and the industrial changes then forced people to readapt, change their culture, start to go to work, start to go to school, starts to provide for their family through going to work. All those elements contributed to development of illness. Depression, which is a psychological aspect, which can be developed by cultural elements because of work. The work you do can stress you. Your family, you need to look after them. That can be part of culture. It's how you do things. It's what you do. You can also pass the knowledge of taking care of the family. It came with a chronic disease, cardiovascular disease. People started to stress. Stressing, more stress can lead to heart failure, can lead to many health problems. It can also lead to dying as well. Obesity was also on increase. Yes, people through the industrialization started to eat differently because of the availability of food, availability of shops. People no longer ran around for food. They did not need to go work all day through agriculture for their food. They simply needed to open a fridge and just eat, which was a problem. Obesity, people started to become bigger. Compare people 2020 and people in 2000, and compare the same people from the 2000s to 1990s. You will see the thinness and the changes in size as people eat this genetically modified food. They become bigger, they have more health problems, because being bigger means you have BP, you will have a heart problem, you'll have kidney problems. You also suffer from depression because of your weight. Some people stress about that. So it becomes an industrialized or industrially driven illness, which then comes through the changes in human lifestyle as part of the second epidemiological transition, which touches on industrial revolution. Okay, yeah, unhealthy food, unhealthy meat. People are buying fast food there. As I made an example of KFC. KFC is oily. KFC is a genetically modified food. There is no chicken that is that size. If you go around the world, go back to 20 years ago, there's no chicken that size. Okay, that epidemiological transition now is what's happening now, the issues we face, the biological concerns, the cultural concerns, the biocultural concerns, that shape illness, that shape disease. Mutation of disease is happening now. Mutation of diseases is happening now. TB, from being just a TB to being MDR, it has become sophisticated. It has become so difficult to deal with TB, especially for those who default their treatment. It becomes resistant. It becomes very, very difficult to heal, such as those who perhaps forfeit their chronic illness, such as diabetes treatment, who continuously eat sugar. They can also have issues of sugar control, sugar being out of control, losing weight, and subsequently dying from that. Because people are eating more unhealthy food than ever. They're eating more unhealthy food than ever. Advertisement is strong, technology is stronger. Gaming has incorporated food, unhealthy food, more sugar, more salt is being used in these processed food. So it becomes an issue of health. You choose what you eat. You can eat processed food, it's up to you, but you will gain weight. You can eat more oily stuff, but you'll have chronic cardiovascular disease, if I can be specific. You see, modern day lifestyle has been a problem. Human evolution has not only presented advancement, but also problems. It has also presented problems. It has made the problem of illness worse, the problem of unhealthy eating worse. Okay, diseases are becoming immune to medication. Flu is becoming immune to some medication. You cannot treat the same flu or treat flu every year with the same medication. For some, it ends up not working. So you see how flu is changing. COVID-19 has been mutating, changing and changing. Many times it's been told it has mutated. You see how human population changes in lifestyle have impacted on our health. TB in South Africa has then become MDR or XDR. Classification internationally, you can see the mutation in illness. So our two themes spoke about these aspects. One, definition, relevance, and the approaches of medical anthropologies, where you were able to explain biomedical, ethnomedical approaches. We looked at on our second theme, epidemiological transitions, the first, the second, the third. What came with them, issues that came with epidemiological transitions, how human evolution has influenced epidemiological transitions. So without understanding the history of the planet, we cannot understand human evolution. And without understanding human evolution, we cannot understand the epidemiological transitions, the first, the second, and the third. So what you need to do now is to go and read, go through the readings. If you want to repeat this class, this recorded class, you can also do that. But make sure you go through your readings, because it's only an MCQ on your test, and it's going to be difficult because you will be studying these skeleton notes, which is a problem. So just go through your notes, make sure you go through your notes, and you go through these videos. I will tomorrow send you an assignment, an essay of 900 to 1,200 words. The instructions will be shared. Again, the instructions will be shared tomorrow. The topic and elements that I expect from that essay. And the due date, I will explain tomorrow, but I can tell you today, it's the 28th of March. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you your assignment. So please go through your readings. Your readings are your key. At university level, your pass is determined by your reading. If you can write and read, then you will pass, because reading right will make you pass the test, and writing in a good way will also assist you in passing, because we write most of the time here. Okay, for those who have questions, any questions? Any questions? Okay,